Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
Today we're talking about Deep Water, which is directed by Adrian Lyne, who I don't think has made a film for quite a while, but he's known for his films from the early 90s. It was Sexually Charged, Flashdance, 9.5 Weeks, Indecent Proposal.
Actually, the 80s, like, he really, you can't think of 80s cinema without referencing, some of his biggest hits, like Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, which he was Oscar nominated for directing.
Right. And
so, yeah, that's right. Flashdance, 83, 9.5 Weeks, 86, Fatal Attraction, 87, Jacob's Ladder, 1990, and Indecent Proposal, 93. It's a string of films you've heard of.
Yeah. Jacob's Ladder wasn't a hit.
No.
The others were very significant hits, particularly the first three. Top 10 blockbuster films that really had reverberations across the culture. Yeah, they were much discussed and much talked about. Fatal Attraction particularly. The Flashdance as well, actually. And then Indecent Proposal was a different kind of discussion, really. It wasn't as popular. And of course, the whole theme of the film, which is, will you allow your wife to sleep with Robert Redford for $1 million, right? It felt kind of icky and, dirty and, and simple in a way. But those three films, they really mark the 80s. If you were someone who went to cinema in the 80s, you would have seen Adrian Lyne films.
Yeah. This is another erotic film.
Yes.
Another sexually charged film. It's a psychological thriller. We watched it on Amazon Prime. I don't know that it's getting a cinema release.
It isn't, is my understanding.
Right.
I mean, it was meant to be released at 2 different times, and then it never happened because of COVID and other reasons. And then it was basically just dumped on Hulu in the US, I think, and Amazon Prime here.
Yeah. So Ben Affleck plays Vic, who is very well off. He used to make chips that go in drones that kill people overseas. He's made a lot of money out of it, out of this morally grey area at best. He's married to Ana de Armas, and they have a little girl together who's 6 or 7 years old. But their marriage is clearly unhappy. He desperately loves her, but she doesn't really seem to love him, or even the daughter very much. She's much happier sleeping around, in front of him, really, which she does at parties, picking up guys and making friends with them. And he essentially allows her to do this, but his jealousy over this is growing and growing. The question of whether he killed a previous lover of hers is raised, and the question is, what's he going to do with subsequent lovers who we see, and how's it going to develop? I thought it was really, really watchable. I think it's quite heavy-handed, some of it, but it's quite crunchy, watchable stuff until the last 20 minutes, where I think it loses the plot completely.
Yes. I mean, the film's ending doesn't make sense, but I've seen it twice now, and actually I love it even more than the first time around. And a lot of it has to do with Ben Affleck, who I found surprising, and it actually made me think about, the interesting roles that he's picked recently, because, they're all kind of middle-aged men, depressed, either enthralled to sex of some kind, or unable, to be up for it, but with kind of like a lingering sadness and, kind of, if you think of The Accountant and films like that. And actually, I think he's really surprising this. He's really, really good. And Ana de Armas, I just think she's like Ava Gardner, right? She's explosive in this. She's so beautiful, and she's so sexy. I think everything she does is sexualized. It's the role, but she inhabits it so incredibly well. I mean, to me, they make the film what it is, really, because I can't stop watching them, really. I think everything that they do is interesting, which is a lot for me to say regarding Affleck, right? Because usually I find him super dull and inscrutable, So I really love it, actually. I think you're right. Yeah, that the ending is very unsatisfactory.
Oh, it's a fucking piece of garbage at the end. It's dreadful. So the thing is, you wanted to watch this, and I didn't know anything about it, so fine. And so I was watching it this morning, at home on my own, and I just Googled it, and on Google it comes up with watch on Amazon, blah blah, and it gives you a couple of ratings they just picked up from across the internet. IMDb 5.4 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes 37%, Metacritic 52%. So I'm going, right, okay, why does Jose want to see this? And then I'm watching it and going, why is it getting such mediocre reviews? Right, this is really watchable, entertaining, fun, quite sexy stuff.
Yeah, very
really
sexy.
nicely shot.
Yes.
I mean, I was watching it at home with HDR, Ultra HD through. It looks beautiful, especially those shots of the snails, the light shine. It was really, really gorgeous. And then we got to the last 20 minutes, because the thing is, I noticed it was the last 20 minutes because I just happened to check the time, and I noticed we had 20 minutes to go. And I was thinking, how's this going to wrap up? And then from then on, it was garbage, and I thought, oh, that's why it's gone down the pan, because the end of a film really shapes what you think of it. It's your final impression of the film, and you come out going, well, that was super unsatisfying. So we'll get into spoiler territory, but ultimately what happens is nothing is resolved, and it ends on. It's like cliffhangery and asking questions. The thing is, the whole film is asking questions, but the thing is, you expect them to be answered. The question of what actually is the truth. Has Ben Affleck killed this person? Has he done it with this other person? It asks these questions, and then it just never answers them. The character of Josh, who's the long-haired blonde guy, who's the first guy we see Ana de Armas with at the start, it's quite tense between him and Vic. And Vic tells him, I killed this other guy, Martin, this previous lover, who we've never seen. But everyone knows that this guy's gone missing. And then it's like, oh, it was just a joke. But then the question is, was it a joke? And that never gets resolved. And then Josh, he kind of finally threatens Josh. But we know that Josh is going away the next day. And the question is, did he kill him that night? Did Josh go away? It's just not addressed again. Josh just goes away. That kind of thing... those sorts of questions just don't get resolved at all. And the final thing is Ana de Armas finding the wallet of Tony, who's the final lover of hers that we see, who is this previous lover from years ago that she's reconnected with. And we see, spoilers, Vic kill him in a gorge and try and sink him in a river. He takes the wallet. Ana de Armas finds this wallet. So she appears to know what has happened, figure out what has happened. But then she is okay with it. She burns the wallet. She smiles at Vic when he comes home. She knows what's going on. As to why any of that is happening, there is no answer.
Well, I think there are answers. So first of all, I don't agree with you that she doesn't love her daughter. She's clearly, enthralled with her daughter. You see them hugging on the sofa and so on.
I think that's something that develops. I will agree with you that happens, but I think what happens is her love for her daughter and for her husband increases over the course of the film, because the other thing is, at the start, when the daughter's playing the song on Alexa, admittedly she's being super fucking annoying, but she's having none of it, whereas Affleck loves the daughter, is playing with her. So it's set up as Affleck loves the daughter, the mother not that interested.
Okay, I didn't see it that way. I thought, Affleck loves the mother and is happy with the situation, and Ana de Armas' character is very unsatisfied with her life and so on and so forth. But there are other instances where you see her with her daughter and dancing or and so on, that you get a sense that she clearly loves her daughter. So I don't.
Well, I think it's something that develops her relationship. It's not one straight from the whole way through. Her relationship with. If we leave the daughter to the side slightly, and we talk about the husband, her relationship with the husband definitely gets warmer over the course of the film. They're very standoffish towards the start, and later on, she starts to develop more feelings for him, maybe fall slightly back in love with him, which I think is why the film is ultimately leading to this form of resolution where she's okay with what he's done.
Well, I think what she wants is for him to demonstrate that he loves her. She wants to be loved, and she doesn't feel loved by him.
He's very passive and he lets all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And as far as he's concerned, it's about keeping his family together and not having a divorce.
Yes. But he is kind of completely obsessed with her, right? Like, you see that in the pictures that he takes, and you see that reflected in when he goes into his office, the big blow-ups of her legs, and, so he is completely obsessed with her. But it's not her idea of love. And actually, there's something very interesting there because she is meant to be foreign. It's not clear whether she's meant to be Brazilian or, but she's meant to be foreign, right? And she feels unloved. Yeah.
I think Ana de Armas is Cuban, is she?
I think she is Cuban.
And she makes reference to this guy Tony at the end, the first American I ever fucked.
Yes.
And something is made of that. She's not just Ana de Armas, the actress. She's playing foreign in America in this film.
And in a way, though, I think the ending is very unconvincing. I mean, I think it has a logic, right? Because the reason why she ends up staying is twofold. Her daughter sinks the suitcase. The daughter doesn't want to go. And also, she realizes that she is loved. Yeah, that kind of, he's done all of this for her, and, she's the love of his life, as the book says, and so on. Now, it's still a shit ending, because, I mean, is this going to continue again? There's nothing there to say that she's not going to do it again, or that he's not going to do the same again. By this point, he's become a serial killer, right? And the writer character, I think, is just a big mistake, the way that he is depicted, because he's meant to be the villain, or at least the stumbling block to a happy resolution of the couple. And it just doesn't work that way.
Tracy Letts, who I love, and in his way, I think I like the way he plays the character. I like the way he always plays his characters. But the character, the purpose of it in some sense is obvious, but when he shows up in that gorge, well, the question is, why does he show up, right?
Yes.
Why would he know to go there? So there's this thing about, Ben Affleck said, I'll go back, I'll get your scarf. They've picnicked there the day before, him and his family. And then that night, we see she's been on a phone call, and she says it was with Don, the writer character, Tracy Letts. So presumably, well, at least what I took from it is that's her telling him to go there tomorrow. Why would she tell him to do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. What's he expecting to see? Don't know. What's she expecting him to see? Don't know. And then this silly car chase ensues, and it gets very, very silly.
I never found it silly. I think, some things, the ending doesn't work. Yeah, so there are kind of problems with the plotting of the story. But to me, everything else overrides that. I mean, what I really loved about the film was, the sense of longing and sadness and passion and obsession, and the sight of Ana de Armas seeking joy and sensation, right? Like, she's always dancing or looking or doing. Yeah, she's someone who wants, like, the physical thrill of being alive, right? Whereas, he's more cerebral, yeah, and more repressed, yeah. So, and watching Ana de Armas, just the way that she walks up the stairs is, like, beautiful, I mean, I'm not even heterosexual, and I just thought it was, like, she's amazingly sexy to watch, right? Amazingly sexual, yeah.
You don't have to go into the stables to look at the horses.
Oh, yes, exactly. So, and it's those things that I think stay with me, right? Like, moments, right? Moments that I think are very worked out. When she gives him a blowjob in the car, right? And the blowjob turns to her biting him.
Yes, as punishment for him fancying this other woman.
Yeah. And then she does it again. And like, it really shocks him, right? Yeah. And then she just takes his pubic hair out of her mouth. I mean, that's amazing, right? Yeah. And the way that she does it is amazing, right? And those things kind of stay with you. And, like, you've not seen them anywhere else. And then you also, you completely understand, the emotion and the logic of all of those actions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and yet kind of you've never seen them. So kind of, I think this is, like all of Adrian Lyne's films, they're, like, obsessed with the erotics of, with a kind of a male logic of desire. But in this case, I think, the combination of her, and then him, because I think there's something, like, so interesting about the way that Ben Affleck plays it, because he could have gone really overboard and kind of being over emotional, and instead everything is repressed, everything is cerebral, right? And yet kind of there is, like, this sadness, really, and yet when he kills the pianist in the pool.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he has to. He must have done. But again, it's not actually resolved. And actually, that whole the police case goes away completely. The police come in, and this party, and the guy's died, and Affleck was the last one in the pool with him. Chances are, that's what he did. But that goes away completely.
It doesn't go away. You get it back in flashbacks all the time. It's very clear that he did it, right? And then I think it's also very clear, that there's no need to resolve it because of the witnesses, the impact of the guy's head on the pool. And then you get this line that, thousands of people die, in a pool every year, right? It's not an
especially
unusual.
When they're super drunk.
Yeah. So I think, one of
the questions it asks is, did the Tracy Letts character who's carrying him and saying we need to get him onto the flat to revive him, he's the one who drops him on his head. And he's already been set up as someone who hates him. He hates him for the drone thing, and he also hates him because he's heard this thing about him killing Martin, this previous guy, which started maybe as a joke, who knows. So the question that asks is, did he do it as a way of framing Affleck? This impact, did he do it deliberately?
Actually, that never occurred to me, though I can see why it would be interesting, because you realize that what is driving that character is really, merely the desire to write a best-selling book, right?
Yeah.
When he's in the car at the end, trying to get to safety, he's texting his wife, "I finally got the book," right?
Yeah, this is going to be a great book.
So actually, that would kind of make sense, that if he makes sure he's dead. Yeah, so that he's got something to write about. But if that's the case, the film doesn't communicate it very well. I didn't get that.
Well, to me, it just asks the question. I mean, to me, it asks the question very effectively. It just doesn't go on to answer it at all.
Also, this thing about, the dynamics of this family, where she's very unsatisfied. He's, completely obsessed with her, partly because he's got very little else going on in his life, He's retired, right? He says something like, "I ride my bike and, I fund a poetry magazine," or whatever, right? And he's a house dad, right? And he is clearly besotted with his daughter, who seems like super intelligent. And actually, I think it's one of the best performances by a child actor I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like completely natural and non-stage baby. But this contrast between the mother not making the child the focus of her life, I mean, that I would agree with, right? I think she clearly loves her daughter, but she's not what's giving her life meaning, whereas for him, like she is, the daughter is like everything, really.
Yeah, very central. Well, him that and the love for his wife,
and the love for his
this
wife.
kind of growing, consuming jealousy. I mean, the mother. Is it unfair to say that, to me, the mother came across really as a nymphomaniac at times? Like, everything was about the sexual drive with her, and who she was meeting and who she was going out with.
Yes, everything was about being desired.
Yeah. I did like when she complains that Affleck doesn't respect her intelligence.
Yes.
That's a real complaint, and you feel it.
Yes.
She says, "Of course I think you're smart." And she goes, "Not in the way that you respect," something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you feel actually how damaging, how hurtful that is to her.
Yeah, I mean, so probably like a distinction between being cunning, and being intelligent. And obviously he's posited as some kind of genius, a super brilliant figure. So in a way, I also like that because, he's very handsome in this, in a kind of a dad way, like, they're no longer showing him with the shirt off the way that they did 20 years ago, right? But he's very, very handsome, and very sexy, actually.
He's also physically large. I mean, he's got big arms, and he stands in a kind of an action man way sometimes, even though, like as you say, no shirt off. But still, I think it's partly there to suggest he is someone who is physically capable of killing who he wants.
Sure.
Ask that question,
And we see him do it, right? So he's someone who is very powerful in life, socially, economically, and physically, right? And the only weakness is this obsession that he's got for this woman, right? Who taunts him constantly, right? In front of other men. It's like, she's like bullfighting him or something, right? Like, she's waving the red thing at him, and it's clearly to get a rise out of him, right? So, I think it's very interesting because it should be no surprise that the Ben Affleck character reacts the way he does. Yeah. Like, she's not only sleeping with all of these men, she's bringing him home. Yeah. And she's not only bringing him home for him to see, which would be a kinky thing, but actually for all their friends to see him being cuckolded, right? Yeah. So to humiliate him, to get back at him, to punish him for some reason. So, he's very reasonable until he loses his reason in the pool, I think. Because it's meant to be like an explosive moment, like something that, it's not planned like the second murder is. Yeah. Where he clearly takes him up to the, to the hill to kill him. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite premeditated. In the pool scene, he's watching his wife with this guy in the pool, and there's this heavy close up on his face and you see, I think it's a great performance by Affleck. You really feel the anger bubbling up inside him.
I think it's also a great performance by Jacob Elordi, who plays that second lover, the pianist.
Yeah.
He's the lead in Euphoria.
Okay.
With Zendaya, and he plays kind of like a nasty character there as well. But in Euphoria, he's very solid and sexy, right? And the way that he's dressed in his performance here is very interesting because he's taller than Affleck, which is difficult to do because Affleck is a very tall guy. But also he's, they dress him to be very slight, and he gives off like this callow. He's not just young, but he's callow and full of himself and insubstantial, in some way, right? And I think Elordi conveys all of this really quite well. Yeah. I think it's Ben Affleck's best performance. I've never seen him this good. And Ana de Armas, to me, in this film, she's a star. Like, I wasn't convinced by her. I liked her very much, but she seemed kind of just young and pretty and, insubstantial in some ways to me. In was it Knife Out? Or
she was in Knives Out. She was in Blade Runner 2049.
Okay, yes.
The virtual assistant type.
Yeah. And she was very good in both. But in this, she's like Ava Gardner, right? Like, she's just explosive. You can't stop watching her, right? And I think it's partly the director. It's little things, the way that she holds her feet, right? The way that she dances, the way that she smiles, the way that she flicks her head, the way that she looks at him, right? Because you always get a sense that she is playing with him. She's taunting him, yeah? It's kind of, it's his reaction is on her mind, right? While she does what she wants, right? So, I think it's an extraordinarily sexy, sexual performance that kind of, to me, reveals her as a real movie star, really. Like, I just, I couldn't stop watching her. And, I'm going to make GIFs.
Of course you are.
So...
What about the snails? I really like the snails. I like the way they were shot. I like. They're kind of cryptic. He goes down to them when he's spurned initially by his wife. She says, "Close the door on your way out." She's not going to let it happen tonight. And he goes into the snails, who you see mating, and then he puts one on his hand, and the light shining through the back. Like I said, it's gorgeous to look at, and it's like that energy he needs. But he hasn't got it with his wife at this point. And then this thing later about. He's talking about his snails, and he says they'll climb at like a 12 meter. They'll climb 12 feet over a wall to get to their lover. Yeah, this thing about like the determination of the snail. Yeah, that you kind of I guess you're supposed to see in him, right?
Well, I think it's beautiful, and actually it reminded me a little bit of The Big Sleep. Yeah. What do they call it? That thing where you grow plants in, which is like dank and humid and
or like a greenhouse.
Yeah, like the greenhouse. Yeah, that's too hot and too humid, and so I love that. And I was also trying to think of, what do the snails signify? And of course, then you get that line about they'll climb a wall 12 feet to get to if they get a smell of their mate, to join their mate. But also, it's symbolic of the state of mind of Ben Affleck. So, externally, he is rich, handsome, successful, with a beautiful wife and an adorable child. Internally, it's all slime, fog, dankness, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that room is his retreat, and it is steam and warm and
Yeah, and dirty, yeah. And also, obviously, that dankness and steaminess and darkness and is also hiding his secret, which is the wallet of the man he's murdered, right? Yeah. So I really liked it.
It's the use of space as a psychological indicator, an inner sanctum. You're going into his head when you're in that room.
I also really love the location and the way that it's filmed, because often what happens in the film is, so it's set in New Orleans, in the small town in New Orleans, and what you'll have, there's a lot of parties, right? So you get all of these social moments, right? Yeah, that you see the couple in those moments within their community, their friends and neighbors, yeah? So it's not just the lone individual or the nuclear family or the couple. They are part of this broader community. But the film shows, the larger community, the dancing, the joy, and then to the back room with the snails. Yes? Yeah. So I think it's got a fantastic depiction of place, that kind of evokes all of those things, the place, the social dimension, the family dimension, and then kind of like the individual psyche, right? Like in relation to all of this, and each is slightly different, So it's the same people moving through the space, but I loved it.
Decent movie, steamy, sexy, exciting. Shame about the end.
Yeah. Highly recommend that everyone see it, though. Again, I can't get over, Ana de Armas. It's a real star turn. And I do think it's Ben Affleck's best performance. I've never seen him be as good and as subtle,
Well, Gone Girl would be the obvious, in so many ways, Gone Girl would be the obvious comparison point, and as a comparison point for his performance.
It would. I think he's better here. I think those shots of him kind of just thinking, right? Like, or you see something and then he reacts and it's just with his eyes, I think it's and also it's just with his eyes, and you get a sense of contradiction or complication, of a movement of thought, right? I thought he was wonderful.
Great.
All right, well, thank you very much for listening. We are eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
Apple Podcasts, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at Eavesdrop Movies, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye.